You're watching News 24 Live. The Proteas have just smashed the West Indies by 257 runs in their Pool B encounter, and another superhuman knock from Captain AB de Villiers. I'm joined in studio by Garen Lamley, the editor of Sport 24, to chat about that magnificent spectacle of cricket.
Unbelievable match. AB can do no wrong. Today, 162 not out after 66 balls. He fastest 150 ever in ODI history. Comfortably led the Proteas to victory, as you said, 257 runs, which tied the World Cup record for the greatest number of run victory. 408 runs, staggering to think you can score that in 50 overs, over 8 runs and over. The last partnership, 80 runs off 20 balls, crazy stuff. Poor West Indies, they obviously came to South Africa before the World Cup and we pretty much smashed them in the ODI, and it just carried on from then. We've certainly got their number. When it came to us having to bowl, we rolled them over for 151 and the match was pretty much all over. So, onwards and upwards for the Proteas team, back on the winning trail after losing to India quite badly by 130 runs in the last match. We've got Ireland up next on Tuesday. I can only see the Proteas going from strength to strength from here. Should easily qualify for the next round. It really then just depends who we play in the quarterfinals, where we finish in our group. Obviously the teams in the other group, Pool A, on paper far stronger than I think our teams, which means we're going to have a tough quarterfinal no matter where we finish and no matter who we play.
Garen, of course making amends for that defeat to India,
right?
But the way that South Africa dominated the West Indies prior to the World Cup in that series, like you said, they're a familiar foe.
Yeah.
Perhaps again the Proteas completely came unstuck against a strong opponent like India.
Yeah,
perhaps we shouldn't sort of rest on our laurels.
Yeah, look, I think a few aspects to that. I think we all thought we were going to beat the West Indies. Looking back at what we had done to them in South Africa, even though when we woke up this morning we saw 3 changes to the Proteas team. JP Duminy had failed his fitness test. There were concerns over Parnell. We had to rush back Riley Rousseau, Bahardine back in the lineup. But as it turned out, they didn't really need to do that much. Bahardine got 10 runs. I think he only needed to face 5 balls, hardly needed to bowl. Rousseau got 60-odd, and at the end of the day, 60-odd didn't really make a difference in this match. And Abbott, he came in and bowled a few overs, but the rest of the team bowled so well that he wasn't really required. Tahir taking 5 wickets, another fantastic performance by him. So it was one of those matches that it didn't matter how many changes we made. It wasn't an issue at the end of the day. Obviously, the matches will get tougher as we go deeper into this tournament. But India, they had played in Australia ahead of this tournament. While we were playing the West Indies in South Africa, India were touring Australia. They did get thumped a little bit by the Australians, but they are a top team anyhow. But they're now used to the conditions, the wickets. They've played pretty much throughout Australia and New Zealand. And, they really put up a good performance, like you said, against us, rolling us over for a 130-run victory. They top of our group. That's a key position, I think, to have. If you look at who the top team in Pool B will play in the quarters, obviously the 4th team in Pool A, which means you'll miss Australia, New Zealand, likely Sri Lanka, and you're likely to play that England perhaps if they get through, or maybe even Bangladesh, which is far easier than if you look at South Africa maybe finishing second. Now that we've lost to India, we're likely to play maybe a Sri Lanka, or if New Zealand and Australia come unstuck, because they obviously still have to play each other. There has to be a loser there. So it's still going to be tough for us to go deep into the tournament when you're playing a Sri Lankan team that on their day with their spinners got some key batsmen, Sangakkara in form, Dina scoring 100 as well. Could be a tough quarterfinal for us ahead.
Just looking at our scorecard, you obviously AB de Villiers carrying the team. But decentish knocks by Amla, Faf du Plessis and Riley Rousseau. Do you think that the openers need to be sort of juggled around a bit, or is the middle order looking set for the rest of the tournament?
When I look at that top order, obviously, when we started off batting, we lost Quinton de Kock for 12 runs. Everyone on Twitter was going, always another failure for Quinton de Kock. Does he need to be there? Should we drop him? Should we give AB the gloves? Moved Riley Rousseau up the order to open. And then there were a couple of 60-odd knocks by Amla Rousseau, like you say. At the time, we thought we're building for a big total. Had AB not come off and he had been dismissed cheaply, obviously our scorecard would have looked a lot different, obviously given the West Indies' great confidence heading into their turn to bat. As it turns out, those 60s really didn't mean too much when he won by 257 runs, because AB did come off in such a spectacular way.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not going to do that every match. He's not going to have time in certain matches
Sure.
to do that. You know, Boadin, obviously that 6-7 position where we're not too sure, do we need an extra batsman or an all-rounder there? He only faced, I think, 5 balls, so it was a moot point whether he would play, or a Ryan McLaren had he been there, or a Parnell up the order, or JP Germany had he passed the fitness test. They wouldn't have actually had any time to face, which is the nature of ODI cricket. You don't ever really know. If you had flipped it around and the West Indies had batted first and scored 151, obviously we probably wouldn't have needed more than 3 or 4 batsmen at all to knock off those runs. So, you know, it's going to be similar, I think, against Ireland in the next test. I don't expect a tough assignment against them. But later on in the tournament, when we play the top nations, you know, then you really
still
hope.
got Pakistan.
It's still got Pakistan, very unpredictable side. I mean, if you think,
I'm sure Tahir in particular would like to do well against
yeah,
them.
no, I'm sure he will, and he could well end up being the Proteas' leading wicket taker and bowler at this
Have
tournament.
you been surprised by his sort of?
I
form,
have
his
a
5-wicket
bit.
haul?
Yeah, I have a bit. You know, hats off to him. You know, he's much maligned bowler. He's got Aaron Pangisa sort of in the squad breathing down his neck, but he's made the position his own. I think he's taken a fancy to the wickets in Australia and New Zealand. They're taking a bit of turn. They're not really spinning too much because he's not a massive spinner of the ball like some of the subcontinent bowlers. So he gets the job done, bowls his wrong uns, googlies and off spinners as he does. And he seems to be having the batsmen in all sorts of fits at the moment. So long may that continue. I think these faster bowlers, the Staines, the Morkels, Philanders, Abbotts, they're much of a matchness in that these batsmen are so good that they can still score runs off them, no matter how, whether it's an inside edge, a slip, a nick through the slips, or one of these crazy shots they're inventing in ODI cricket at the moment, with the ball flying all over to the boundary. So they tend to bowl 3 or 4 good balls per over, but then those other 2 or 3 seem to find their way to the boundary, and before you know it, you're sort of going for like 8-9 runs an over, which translates into like 8 overs for 70 odd, and then it doesn't look like you've had a great performance.
Thank you, Garen.
Thanks very much, Nick.